You know, you have Romeo and Juliet. You have Cinderella and Prince Charming. You have more modern examples like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. The great love stories of our time and of the fictional world. And then you have one that blows all of those out of the water. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Brian Glenn. Now, in this segment, based on a video that I've not seen that many people covering, but it's bonkers, of Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, I want to explore what I perceive to be not a technical diagnosis of any kind, okay? This is me just speaking as a layman. There seems to be some anger issues within both Marjorie Taylor Greene and her boyfriend, Brian Glenn. And we want to explore that together. Will you join me? Okay, so this video that I have for you is of a guy who identifies himself as a professional troll, okay? So he's trying to get a rise out of Brian Glenn. And he's asking Brian Glenn, this was back at the Steve Bannon going to prison saga. Again, Brian Glenn, right-wing broadcaster, boyfriend of MTG. Are we going to storm the jail where Bannon, this MAGA guy, is being held like we stormed the Capitol? And Brian Glenn absolutely loses it and goes off. Here we go.
Steve Bannon, don't worry, we're going to storm the jail like we did on January 6th. So when are we storming the building? Like we did on January 6th.
Why don't you off? How about that?
That's
maggot.
say you're sorry.
I've been waiting all day to say that. Hey, you.
Hey, just keep it moving. What did I do?
All right, let's watch, let's watch the notable part one more time. I don't, let me give credit to this guy, even though I don't know him. I don't know what he's doing other than this, so I'm not making any endorsements, but because it is his video, you have Michael Picard, and that's who this is, but his vibe contrasting with Brian Glenn is very fascinating. What did I do? As Brian Glenn's going, F you! But here's the notable part one more time.
Why don't you off? How about that?
That's
maggot.
say you're sorry.
I've been waiting all day to say that. Hey, you.
Hey, just keep it moving. What did I do?
What did I do? So, let me say this. I actually don't like, strangely enough, for all of my giggling, pardon myself, this type of content. Now, we have more examples of MTG primarily exuding her recent angry moments, I should say. And these are fascinating. Many of these are not someone trolling her and instead just her losing her mind. And I really do think Brian Glenn and her could work on keeping their cool, you know? But I don't think you could see there were cuts there. I'm sure the professional troll guy was doing a lot to provoke Brian Glenn, and then he cut those parts out, and then it just looks like he says, should we storm the Capitol? And then F you. So I've said before, just trolling for trolling's sake is not my style. When I go to Trump rallies, I'm not trying to, mislead them into tripping over their words or trying to dishonestly snag a little embarrassing moment. Instead, as y'all have watched video after video, they're getting a chance to make their case. It's just an absurd case, and it's very honestly presented, meaning the video, not their case necessarily. But here is just, it gets funky, and I've had people come up to me and try to just provoke, and that's never great. So I do want to denounce it, to be principled, even though, of course, I got joy out of Brian Glenn going crazy that much. And before getting to this Marjorie moment, as a reminder, if someone does come up to you in that sort of situation, just trying to get a viral moment where you scream F off, maybe don't give that to them. That's what they want. They want you to have such an interaction. And Brian Glenn just handed it on a silver platter there, saying he's been waiting all day to say that. Well, that's weird. A guy's trolling you and you're just fantasizing about screaming F off to him the whole day. I don't know about that. But seeing Brian Glenn this angry reminded me of, as I said, his partner in life, MTG, and how she lately has been escalating her rage in interviews here, being very upset and saying a very similar thing to this reporter that Brian Glenn said to the troll.
Trump is closer to picking his VP, and should you be on that list?
Oh, that's the question everyone asks. And no, I don't think Nikki Haley should be on the list. But of course, President Trump will choose who he wants for VP.
Would you like to be on that list?
He's got a long list. I support President Trump in any way he'd ask me. But I can assure you it won't be Nikki Haley.
And can you tell me why so many people that support Donald Trump love conspiracy theories, including yourself? He seems to attract lots of conspiracy theorists.
Well, let me tell you, you're a conspiracy theorist, and the left and the media spreads more conspiracy theories. We like the truth. We like supporting our Constitution, our freedoms, and America first. So,
what about Jewish space lasers? Tell us about Jewish space lasers.
No, why don't you go talk about Jewish space lasers? And really, why don't you off? How about that?
Thanks. Thank you very much.
I do appreciate, with all of my disdain for Marjorie Taylor Greene, as I've expressed for years now, I do appreciate the way that she delivered that. Hey, how about you go F off, all right? Just take this, and I'm going to leave you with that, all right? As opposed to Brian Glenn's sort of forceful, borderline violent delivery of that same phrase. With all that is going on right now in American politics, it feeling like we're on the world's most aggressive, not that fun roller coaster, bumpy, jerking us around. If you appreciate this show in particular and you want to show your support for it and help us continue to grow, you can do so. It's easy, free, simple, just by clicking that subscribe button. If you haven't already, please do so. Thank you so much. Back to the video. Now, as we're reflecting on recent MTG moments, this is brutal, I'm sorry. But here was Marjorie Taylor Greene, a moment we've looked at now a few times that I just can't get over. Congresswoman of the United States.
In that room? No, absolutely not. I mean, everything I said is correct. It's how the American people feel. It's what we know to be a fact. It's all the evidence has been proven true. We have Jamie Raskin in there accusing us of worshiping Trump, worshiping as a convicted felon. She is a convicted. Well, yeah. So is George Floyd, and everybody, and you all too. The media worship George Floyd. Democrats worship George Floyd. There were riots burning down the country over George Floyd, and Raskin is in there saying we worship him. Excuse me, let me correct you, and this is really important. I don't worship, I worship God. God. And Jesus is my savior. I don't worship President Trump. And I'm really sick and tired of the annex I have to deal with constantly from the Democrats. So that's what we just went through in there. And then they're sitting there, they can attack my character all day long. What's his face in there? Whoever was talking last was calling me insane, but yet we can't say, oh, they're attacking my character. Oh no, it's nonstop BS and annex. You want to know why? The Democrats don't have anything. They're responsible for the lockdowns, forced vaccinations, kids being forced to stay home, people committing suicide, and all the horrors that this country lived through during COVID. Fauci belongs in prison. He should be tried for mass murder, and he should be tried for crimes against humanity. That's how I feel after that hearing. That's how the American people feel.
You know, it doesn't have to be this way, MAGA. And I wish that you would make it not this way. Let me just give you some context. We're having a great day here at the show. Just one of those days where we feel good, things are going well. So know that I understand there's a bizarre juxtaposition going on between the videos we're watching and my mood, and it doesn't line up. Serious stuff being espoused there. But as I've repeated many times, I think the way we get through without having a total breakdown ourselves, this stressful political moment, is by laughing here and there. But before getting to this next flashback, MAGA, you can have leaders that disagree with us, right? You can not like actions that Democrats have taken, like lowering prescription drug costs for some reason. You can want them to be more expensive, or you can not like historic infrastructure investments, the likes of which we've rarely seen in this country's history, trying to make airports better, updating them, investing in passenger rail, investing in broadband internet, roads and bridges, clean and reliable drinking water. You cannot like the concept of investing in renewable energy, cheaper for consumers and better for the planet. You cannot like, again, just to continue going through our policy positions, expanding healthcare for veterans, making sure that we treat those who have served our country the best that we possibly can. You cannot like protecting workers' rights in the workplace, trying to increase their wages and give them bargaining power. All these things, you cannot like them. But you also could pick leaders who don't like them in a way that's not so embarrassing. You can have someone who still has policy positions that maybe you align with. And obviously, to illustrate a point, I was going through a bunch of positions of ours that I don't think are that controversial, which is why I'm confused with your angry opposition. But let's say other issues, maybe your perception of the border, even if it's people like MTG shooting down security solutions to the border. But regardless, whatever you perceive it to be, you can have people with those same policy positions who don't act like this, who don't humiliate us on the world stage, right? She's perceived to be a representative because she is of this great country, and that's shameful, and that is embarrassing to me personally. I take that as a personal slight, okay? So you can F off. Just kidding. I would never. But that's why sometimes I think maybe it's not about policy then. Because instead of choosing more level-headed people with policy positions that are different than liberals, you choose people who are really incoherent on policy, but have just their very last marble about to fall out of their head, you know? All right, here's another moment. We're having a good time from a recent interview as an example of representing us on the world stage with an Australian outlet that MTG did.
Appreciate him for that.
And if it doesn't go your way, if Biden wins, will you accept the result?
Again, what does this have to do with Julian Assange? Seriously,
It's the
really,
natural
that's what we're
extension of the
supposed to
question
be
about
talking
truth. And why would I?
What network is this?
Why would I?
What is this? ABC in Australia? Is she getting any marching orders from the Democrat Party? I mean, is this what you decided to come up with today?
You're a prominent figure in US politics. The first debate is tomorrow. The result of the election is on the minds not just of Americans but of the whole world. So it's a natural point of curiosity. But I understand that we've reached the end of the questions that you want to answer. Thank you for talking to us about Julian Assange and for joining the program.
Thank you. Good night.
And then she rips off her mic. You know, for all of the rhetoric on the right about snowflake liberals, which, hey, you have them. They exist. Sometimes I have my snowflake moments, okay? But it's wild how easily MAGA figures, leaders, crumble under the slightest bit of pressure because they go on these right-wing outlets and, for example, Trump will be asked questions such as, how do you wake up and deal with everything that you're dealing with and do it so courageously? So when he goes on an outlet that's not overtly right-wing, he gets so flustered and angry at the outlet for asking questions that are not even oppositional, but just slightly challenging. Same thing with MTG here. It's become, because of the whole fake news branding, very in vogue in MAGA to accuse outlets of being unfair, journalists of being unfair, if they dare to ask questions that aren't the softest of softball questions. And this is something, especially when they interact with outlets from any other part of the world, that really shakes them, because normally politicians are supposed to be challenged, even if it's an outlet that ideologically aligns with you a little bit more. They're still supposed to come up with questions that play devil's advocate or get to the core of concerns about you. And this is something the right-wing media echo chamber does not have the capability of doing real journalism, whereas with all of its flaws, quote unquote, mainstream liberal media sometimes goes a little overboard even to prove just how oppositional they can be to people on their quote unquote side, as shown by the wall-to-wall coverage that is very negative about Biden. Some of it perfectly justified, but right now we're in a news cycle where even quote unquote liberal media is doing a bunch of brutal coverage, and in interviews with Biden, brutal questions are being posed to him because of the post-debate fallout. That shows you a difference, again, sometimes even to a fault, of the journalistic standards on either end. And then you have this Marjorie Taylor Greene moment.
Attorney said he wasn't going to prosecute. So
Right, because Matthew Graves is such a...
Graves is one of the ones that sent all the people to prison on the phony charge that was Fisher that was overturned.
Matthew Graves is a feckless piece of okay? He puts grandmothers in prison. That's what a coward, slime bag, scum, maggot of a man Matthew Graves is. That's what kind of man that is. He's not even a man.
So what can we...
He's not even a man. God. Ugh. Buh. So there it is. Ryan Glenn. They both use the word maggot, by the way, which is interesting. I don't hear that one as an insult. That feels sort of dehumanizing. But I know MAGA people sometimes will be described as maggots. I don't like that. I've said before, it's why you've never heard me only bring it up whenever I'm bringing it up to say, let's not use that. For all of our feelings about the negative characteristics of the MAGA movement, let's not go there in just because MAGA fits nicely into the word maggot, ever using that phrase, as some people do, because we do hold ourselves to higher standards, or at least I think we should, instead of being the mess that you describe this to be. And again, you tell me, dream couple? Maybe so. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. If you want to get an extra episode of the show daily, where this sort of looser, fun vibe is kind of normal. That's always what it is. You can do so by clicking the join button below, and that supports the work we're doing, gives you members only content, and it's just a good old time.